There's a factor that has been sidelined all week, but needs to be seriously addressed before Sunday's decisive matchup between the Patriots and Broncos. Altitude. Whenever Denver is mentioned, the immediate association is with Mile High City and difficulty breathing. However, this discussion goes far beyond a label, repeated ad nauseum, and needs to be understood within a physical, psychological, and historical context. Empower Field is situated well above sea level, while the environment the Patriots are accustomed to in Foxborough practically blends into the coastline. This difference creates a real physiological contrast. At high altitudes, oxygen availability is lower, which can accelerate fatigue, increase dehydration, and directly impact athlete performance, especially in the second half of the game when physical exertion is naturally greater. If this type of analysis helps you better understand the game, please subscribe, like, and comment on what you expect from this matchup. This support makes a difference and keeps this type of content online. A report from a local Denver news outlet highlighted exactly this point, explaining that thinner air affects the body progressively. According to experts, some teams try to minimize the impact by arriving in the city days before the game, seeking gradual acclimatization. The problem is that medical studies indicate that the human body takes weeks to truly adapt to this type of environment, making any attempt at adaptation in just a few days more symbolic than effective. Given this scenario, the Patriots coaching staff opted to maintain their traditional plan. The internal assessment is that psychological adaptation to the environment requires more time than a simple change of routine. The strategy remains based on physical conditioning, preparation, and total focus on execution, without altering the usual logistics simply because of the game's location. Historically, playoffs doesn't bring back good memories for the Patriots. The record is negative, with memorable eliminations that are still fresh in the memory of some fans. These defeats helped build the narrative that the stadium and altitude represent an almost insurmountable obstacle. Even so, the league's own history shows that this factor alone doesn't determine the outcome of a game. There are clear examples of teams that arrived in Denver for crucial games and came away with resounding victories. Proving that preparation and execution remain key factors inside the locker room, the message is straightforward. The instruction is not to turn altitude into an imaginary enemy. The idea is to go onto the field, play American football, enjoy the adrenaline of a conference final, and maintain a competitive rhythm from the first snap. The use of oxygen on the sideline is seen only as a support resource, not as a sign of weakness. The stadium is not treated as a frightening place, but familiar stage throughout the careers of many athletes on the roster. This discourse also appears in the players' statements. Some have already played in similar environments before reaching the professional league and downplay the impact of the altitude factor. The internal understanding is that, although the physical effect exists, it shouldn't occupy space in the athletes' minds during the game. Confidence comes precisely from not allowing the past to dictate behavior in the present. Even so, it's impossible to ignore that some fans relive painful memories whenever Denver and the playoffs are on the scene. The feeling of apprehension exists, fueled by memorable games from other seasons. Still, the prevailing expectation is positive, with confidence that this group has what it takes to write a different story. Meanwhile, off the field, the atmosphere gained an extra ingredient. The Broncos coach adopted a provocative tone when speaking publicly about the outcome of the game, suggesting an extended rest period after the match. In direct reference to preparation for the Super Bowl, the statement was interpreted as an early guarantee of victory and quickly began circulating as motivational material for the other side. This type of stance deviates from the more cautious approach normally adopted in crucial weeks. It's not the first time this coach has drawn attention for statements of this kind, and throughout the season there have been examples of opponents who verbally underestimated the Patriots and ended up paying the price on the field. Internally, every phrase is noted, absorbed, and transformed into competitive fuel. From this emotional and strategic context, the focus shifts to what truly decides big games. The first key is protecting the quarterback. The instruction is clear: take care of the ball and prevent the passer from suffering unnecessary impacts. The message also serves as a direct reprimand to the offensive line. Any failure in protection can completely change the course of the match. The second key involves absolute discipline. Every possession must end with a kick. Whether it's an extra point, a field goal, or a punt, what cannot happen are turnovers. Errors of this type have already cost the opponent short field goals in recent games, and in a matchup of this level, it becomes even more dangerous. The logic is simple: don't give away free advantages. The third key begins to take shape on defense, but this point connects directly to what comes next in the game and in the analysis of the matchup, especially when it comes to defensive pressure, blitzing, and reading the opposing quarterback. The third key to victory lies directly in the defensive identity that has defined the Patriots' path in this playoff. Constant pressure on the opposing quarterback has become a pattern, repeated week after week. Aggressive blitzing, quick reads, and pocket collapse have been decisive in recent matchups, and the expectation is that this approach will be maintained once again. The logic is clear in high-level American football: when the quarterback is pressured, mistakes happen. The opponent enters the field with a quarterback who hasn't played in an official game with real-life throws for a long time. The opportunities he's had recently were in the preseason, against alternative rosters, and in contexts completely different from what you find in a playoff, much less an AFC championship. The difference in intensity, speed, and execution is brutal. If this quarterback has time in the pocket, he can find passes and keep the offense on the field. If he's pressured from the start, the offensive structure tends to fall apart quickly. This analysis isn't theoretical. It's exactly how it was against other quarterbacks faced recently. The Patriots' defense showed that when it speeds up the opponent's internal clock, it forces bad decisions, rushed passes, and game-changing errors. The repetition of this pattern isn't a coincidence, it's a method. Defensive pressure doesn't appear as just an isolated play, but as a sustained plan throughout the entire game. All of this connects directly to the concept of discipline. Blitz only works when the rest of the defense is aligned, communicating well, and avoiding mental errors. The same discipline required on offense to avoid turnovers needs to appear on the other side of the ball, especially when playing away from home in an environment like Empower Field, where any mistake can be amplified by the local energy. Preparing for this game involves understanding that external factors like altitude and atmosphere cannot override the team's internal control. The message is clear: don't make Mile High into something bigger than it really is. Yes, the air is different. Yes, there is physical exertion, but American football is still decided by execution, reading the game, technique, mentality. History matters, but it doesn't play on the field. Past defeats are part of the collective memory, but this group is building its own identity. The focus is on playing in the present, not reliving old scenarios. The playoffs demand emotional control, especially in high-impact games like this, where every detail is analyzed, every decision is amplified, and every mistake can be decisive. On the other hand, the confident rhetoric of the opposing team adds an emotional component. In professional American football, this type of statement rarely goes unnoticed. Inside the Patriots locker room, these words are not publicly responded to, but are absorbed as silent motivation. The history of the league shows that securing victory before the final whistle usually comes at a cost. The internal expectation is for a physical, strategic game decided by the details, protecting the quarterback, avoiding turnovers, and constantly pressuring the opposing passer form. The three pillars of the game plan. When these points are executed together, the team has shown the ability to control the pace of the game and impose its identity, even away from home. Confidence exists, but it shouldn't be confused with arrogance. The understanding is that winning in Denver requires maturity, focus, and discipline from the first to the last snap. The context is the playoffs. The stage is big, and the margin for error is minimal. Even so, the belief is that, following this script, the Patriots have a real chance of leaving Empower Field with a victory and advancing. The invitation to the fans is simple and direct: watch, analyze, and participate. The game promises to be decided more by execution than by external factors. In the end, altitude, pressure, blitz, discipline, and quarterback protection all converge at a single point. Whoever best controls these elements will be closer to transforming this playoff into a step towards the Super Bowl. Patriots pride.